welcome to Conversation Place number 13. I'm Sarah from Dance 4, and I'm delighted today to welcome Gillie Kleiman and Rosalie Schweiker, who will be discussing their work and their ideas. If I could hand over to you, Rosalie.
Yes, I think we've just been talking about big boobs, which we thought would be quite a good start to the conversation, or more accurately, I think more about what does it mean to make work about something that's I think that's been given and that you often can't really change, which for me has been being a woman who's got 34 double G. And we're talking about going shopping and what that means, and I think I was just about to say that this whole thing about going into a shop and feeling like you're a total freak. I don't know if you can relate to that, but it's just like, and I think for me it was this kind of reason of like, maybe the first time when I went, I kind of enjoy going into Bravissimo, for example, because when I go to them and I say to them, have you got this bra in a 34 double G? They don't look at me as if I'm, they just go, yes, we do. And that's really nice, and the power that can give to you. And I'm not, there's all this kind of thing that I see very critical about them as well, which is this whole like empowering the consumer feminist. So I'm not all saying just go there and spend a lot of money on it, especially if like me, you don't have a lot of money. But it's just sort of like thinking, what is it? Like it's so easy to accommodate to those people's needs, but and it's just so nice not to have to fight for it, and not to have to, as you said, you just go in and they're just nice to you. Yeah, like you don't. And what does that mean? And so I think for me that's been the idea of like thinking, okay, so what can I do as an artist? And then think about, okay, what resources do I get given, and what do I have, and how can I make these spaces in which people can just feel like they don't have to constantly like defend or diffuse or like kind of like make themselves smaller or make themselves bigger, or they can just, they have the privilege of just not having to worry about all these things, which, yeah.
I think for me it was really, I'm always happy to see things about big boobs, and just anything, any kind of non-normative fleshiness of any kind, I'm always thrilled about for all kinds of reasons. But mostly because for most of my life I was very fat, and I'd use that as a description of matter as opposed to an insult or any other kind of descriptor.
Yeah.
And I was sort of really determined to dance, but I would even feel embarrassed about calling myself a dancer to a lay person who doesn't know anything about my practice.
Yeah.
So telling a doctor that I was a dancer and that I had an injury, and he looked at me and said, "You're a dancer," and he looked me up and down. And my relationship to the idea of whether I could call myself that kind of worker or not was very much to do with my sort of physical magnitude, but also I found myself developing certain kinds of professional personae in order to be able to function as a fat person in a thin world, in an even thinner and more resistant to fat people world than the rest of the world is.
Yeah.
I remember writing an article about being a fat dancer on Belly Flop magazine, which is a magazine that I was part of organising for a long time. It's still going. I just taken a break because I live far away from London now. And I was writing about being a fat dancer, and it was triggered by going to a professional dance class. And then I really didn't want to change in the communal changing rooms, because it's not nice if you have any kind of difference. Because even though people are very nice and they're all very body positive people, they're dancers, you just get looked at. Because they're curious. It's not malicious. People are just curious about a different kind of body. And sometimes you don't want that when you're sweaty and you've come out of a class. And I felt like I needed to make a reason for me to go into the toilets and lock the door on my own and get changed. And I felt like I needed to explain that to somebody. And that's hard going, man.
Yeah. No, but
professional anything.
Yeah, and it's really hard. I think it's first. I mean, maybe for you it wasn't that, but for me it was a really conscious decision as well to say, okay, I'm going to make this an issue,
Mm.
Because it's been a problem or a thing all my life, but I haven't, I haven't had any kind of like, oh no, I don't know if you're going to get, but it's just like something that I thought, okay, do I really want to be the artist who everybody thinks of? Oh, she's the one with the boobs, isn't she? Like, so, so it's like, oh, she's the fat dancer. Oh yeah, do these kind of like, because we all like, life is really short, time's really short, and we work in a super competitive field, so it's like people need a short, catchy thing that they think that it is that you're doing. And just for me to, I think the fact, because I had this conversation with myself going, do I really want to make this an issue? Showed me that it had to become an issue, because it's like, I can't just like shy away from it. And then the other thing, I think, if you then, like you doing it really well, you're making it really articulate and you're talking about it, then so many people come out of the woodwork. And I don't think I've ever done a piece of work or tried to work on something where there's been such a response to it. And I don't mean by the art world who, can't deal with it because they're like, it's about women, it's embarrassing. It's like, it's about your body. We don't have any bodies. We're just mine. All this kind of like art crap. But then it's really about like people coming together and talking about this, because there's such a need for women to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then that gives you the strength to go on with it and to just like take all the comments of like, all the crap that you get like from curators, from like, it's like every time you have a conversation about it, like, so that's great, really well done, Rosalie, that's so empowering. Have you ever thought about a reduction? And it's just like, no. Why do I have to have this conversation? Like, why are you? They either pity you or they like patronize you, or it's very hard to have it being taken serious. It's like, no, some people make art about trees. Other people make art about, I don't know what. I just happen to make art about bras because I think it's a really interesting society issue.
Yeah. I think it's because there's lots of interesting things that you said. So one thing is that this idea that the visual art world is like, we're minds, we're not bodies.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I think is great about dance, and that we forget as dance people to defend about our practice, is that most of the time, most dance practitioners, we're just not going to join in with that, because that's stupid. Of course, we're not just bodies and we're not just minds, and of course, bodies and minds are not separable entities. The physical, the emotional, the psychological, the intellectual, they're all the spiritual. They're all kind of something. They're not kind of strands of being that can be divided. But the other thing that is interesting to me is this kind of like unique selling point. Like, you're going to be that kind of artist. And I remember other people used to tell me about other fat dancers in other countries. I'd be like, do you know this person? They're doing something like you. And then I would look them up and I'd be like, they're not doing anything like me. Like, there's nothing to do. There's nothing about their work that is like mine. Apart from that, they're also overweight. And, and it's really funny. But on the other hand,
yeah. No, I know it's probably not funny when you're getting it, but it's funny when you hear it as a story.
So it's like, she's fat. Okay. Goodo. And but the other funny thing that happened, it's really funny. I remember having this conversation when I came to the opening of your sex shop, and I came with Alexandrina Hemsley, who's a great friend, and we came to your very busy opening of the sex shop, and then we were like, okay, this is too busy. Let's just go and have a drink. And she began to tell me about a new project of hers with Jamila Johnson-Small of Project O, called Swagger, and they were making a work on two women who are both fat. They're also a couple, and I remember thinking, I remember having this slight sort of funny feeling because Alex said to me they call themselves fat activists, and I remember thinking, I feel like that's someone else called. She calls herself a feminist, but it's not exactly the same, so that's kind of unfair. But the other thing that happened was I remember being like, what? You're making a piece about fat? But that's my thing!
Yeah.
That's my topic!
Yeah.
I have that experience. And it's completely ludicrous because I wanted to hold on to that. I wanted that to be my thing, that I can say, I am this. I am this. You listen to me, I'm special. And it could be like a life emotional thing, but it is also definitely a professional thing.
Yeah.
How do I say to other people what I am that is different than
Yeah.
others?
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, this, like, yeah. It was really funny that I didn't know that happened at the same time as the sex shop that they started working on something, because, that's been a real amazing experience for me to see that. And I think because I'd not really follow kind of performance or dance that close, so it's just like, it was just so good. But no, I think like the kind of like, why do we identify with this in a way that we then make it our selling point? I don't know. And why is that a selling point for me as well? I think in a way that, it's a bit like, it's always the same curve. I don't know if that works the same in dance. So you start something as an artist, and then the institutions, or nobody's really interested in it. It's a bit weird. You can't really explain it yet. So you kind of like, you self-produce it, you self-organize it, you do it. Then they see, okay, it's interesting. Then they finally get interested, but they're still like, they're trying to like go, oh no, it's not actually. I mean, I've heard people say it's a minority issue, for example, which I think is really offensive as well. Like, nah, 50% of the population probably at some point will wear a bra, and like, anyhow. So it's kind of like, so it's kind of the sort of thing where you're going, okay, so they're not interested, but they're sort of thinking that they might be good for them because they have to let them in. You kind of like, it's like, you have to run an education program because you need to cater for all those minorities that you don't actually attract with the program that you do. So it's kind of like, and then you find they finally get to it, and then they clicks with the institutions. Then they understand that the work that we do can actually bring in people that, might it make easier for them to get funding, because the funding is very much related to these kinds of issues now. So, and then you just get sort of called in, but more like as a kind of like, as a massage person, you sort of like you book a massage, so the institution books you in, and then you massage their necks, and you go like, and then they go, oh yeah, that's good, and then like, but actually they don't really change anything. They don't change their attitude, they don't change their posture, they don't change how they are in the world. They just want you to kind of like give them some sort of like quick relief.
Mm.
And then, oh no, we did have some black people there, it was fine. Or we have a show by a woman, it's actually okay. So then I'm like this like token woman that they let in with this token, what they see as a feminist issue. But actually the structures don't change. They still have unpaid interns. Their assistants are always female. The directors are always male. I don't really know. It's like, it's really conflicting. It's in a similar way how, why do you make yourself as this kind of like issue artist? And then what does that mean when you then try and make a living with it? And should you actually try and make a living with it? Like, I still don't really. Yeah.
I mean, I have this, I guess the organisations that I've developed relationships with now are ones that, like, I always talk about having crushes on organisations.
Yeah.
So like, I had quite a big crush on arts admin, and
Yeah.
I really liked them, and I thought they were really cool, and I hoped that they would notice me. And then they gave me a bursary that you've got now, and I was like, oh, but they like me back. It was like, oh yes, they like me back. That's brilliant. But my most enduring crush has been Dance 4. And when I was at university, I just dreamed of being in Not Dance, and then I was in Not Dance. Like, oh, if I could only I would just love to be in at Dance 4. And then I'm now an associate at Dance 4, and I feel like that. It's like I've got my best boyfriend I've ever had. So I think like I can have conversations with these organisations long term, and I don't feel at all that they are using me for anything. And part of why I think that that's true is because the kind of topic or the topics or the content or the subject matter that I'm dealing with, though that might be important to me and it might be an important part of the conversation, I feel like I can also have a conversation with them about quite old-fashioned things like form. Like, how am I doing my work?
Yeah.
Am I making an installation or a performance or a book or a talk or whatever? I can talk to them about why that might be the right thing to do. I can talk to them about who we might meet through this work, why I would work with them and not with someone else. So I don't, with these organisations, I don't feel bought in. But then sometimes, especially touring work, you suddenly realise, oh yeah, I have to describe my work in such a way that it's as if all that endeavour which is the actual working of art, drifts away, and what is left is like an image or a set of words. And I am awful at marketing. Like I'm just terrible at it. I don't have a website because it stresses me. I don't have a website because
I have a feeling you have a website. That's just as valuable. You know, you don't have to actually have one. People have a feeling that you've got it. But you do like all this. I think like performance or dance or like anything, they're so much better at this kind of stuff anyhow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, totally. Because like I think it's still, you're not really meant to have that role as an artist, that you like you create infrastructures and structures for your own work and for other people's work. Then you become a curator immediately. For like something else. And especially as a woman, you're also interested in self-organizing and in hosting, and you're not just promoting your own work. I think there's a really like that there's this whole they're much more intolerant of that kind of shift. Whereas I think, I don't know what I've maybe seen like with doing a little bit of stuff now with Project O with this school, or just like being more with as admin. Maybe it's just because it's not my world and I don't know all the bitching that happens backstage. But I was just like, you're also nice to each other.
Oh,
it's like different. I think it's a totally different. It feels to me like a totally different scene.
I mean,
maybe that's just because I'm an outsider to it, so I don't like.
I have a community of people with whom I'm very cooperative, and I have a lot of affection for. And I feel like I'm part of something, and I'm really grateful for that. And I sort of, being in Newcastle now, I'm sort of trying to work out what that relationship is. But I do feel like one of the downsides of my personality, maybe, but also the context in which I find myself and the relationship between those things, is competition. And I'm really interested, for example, in your pizzas, where you celebrate other artists who might just be other artists you know.
Yeah.
Sort of imagine that happening in dance, but I can also imagine some snarkiness happening, or maybe not.
Yeah, I guess maybe it happens in every field, just because I don't know dance so well that I'm always I have this idealized romantic version of everybody getting on.
I think we have an idealized romantic version of some parts of the visual art world as well.
Well, on that note of idealised versions, thank you very much indeed. I'd like to thank you, Rosalie and Gillie, for joining me today. And I hope you'll come and both join us for cake and pizza one day at Dance 4. And I think there's a lot more to talk about, so I hope that one day we'll be able to put you in conversation again. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Errol.